Welcome to the assembly guide for the K-2 pedals kit from Najam Simtec. Upon opening the box, we find the warning page. Kindly follow the safety instructions at the back. Next, we have the two pedal faces, an electronics board, a USB cable, a bag containing elastomers and springs, the brake pedal fasteners with the long hexagonal standoff, the throttle pedal fasteners with all-round standoffs, a bag containing ball joints, washers and nuts, two long bolts, the load cells, 6 stainless steel mounting brackets, 2 spacers for the pedal faces, the side structure plates for the throttle, the side structure plates for the brake, this part we need for the brake assembly, these two parts we need for the throttle assembly, a 20mm aluminum profile, and a 30mm aluminum profile. For the assembly we need the following tools: a 10mm spanner or alternatively an adjustable one, a 5mm Allen key, a 3mm Allen key, and a small Phillips head screwdriver. For the brake pedal assembly, we need the parts displayed on the screen, the 30mm aluminum profile, and the bag containing the brake pedal fasteners. From the washers and nuts bag, we need 1 ball joint, 6 steel washers, 2 large plastic washers, 2 small plastic washers, 3 M6 nuts, 3 large T-slot nuts, and 2 M5 T-slot nuts. In the fasteners bag, we have 2 types of M6 bolts. For the first step, we need the 22mm bolt and the 15mm standoff. These will form the pivots for the pedal arms. We start by checking which side of the pivot standoff goes easily into the brass bushings. Insert the 22mm screw from that side, insert it in completely and repeat the process for the other side. Next, put a steel washer on top and screw on the large T-slot nut for a few threads. The following steps are important for the right pedal geometry, so please follow the instructions carefully. Slide the pivot assembly into the aluminum profile from one end, ball side first. Align the bottom face of the T-slot nut with the end face of the aluminum profile and tighten completely. Repeat the process for the opposite side but leave it finger tight. This forms the bottom of the pedal arm and should look like this. Next, we slide a washer on the ball joint and screw on the T-slot nut, again a few threads. Slide it into the profile like so and measure the distance from the top face of the nut to the top face of the pedal arm and adjust the position to exactly 126 millimeters. Tighten the M6 nut on the ball joint in this position. Now, we assemble the main structure using the 16mm M6 bolts. The flange side of the brass bushing indicates the inner side of the structure plate. Fasten the hexagonal and the round standoffs in the positions shown. Run the wires through the load cell carefully. Do not pull or twist these wires with considerable force. Place the load cell in the assembly with the wire side down. Now carefully place the other side structure plate aligning the pivot and the load cell cutouts. Fasten the bolts on this side. Use a flat working surface to ensure that the bottom sides of the side structure plates are parallel. Now we can tighten the other side of the pivot. Insert two M16 screws in the positions shown, one on each side using the steel washers and nuts. For the next step, we need the small spring and this plastic part. Start by placing the spring in the cavity. Have two 16mm bolts and the round standoff on standby. Now bring the part into the assembly as shown and press the spring to place it behind the round standoff. Align the two top slots on the plastic part with the M16 bolts. Now hold it in place and bring in the round standoff. Insert the screws and fasten tightly. The part should move freely, held in position by the spring, like so. When inspecting from the bottom, make sure that the load cell wires are not in the way and these two surfaces sit flat. Mount the pedal face next. The vertical position of the pedal faces is adjustable along the entire length. For the final step, we insert the long M6 bolt like so. Place two elastomers, then the plastic cup, one steel washer, one small plastic washer, and screw on the M6 nut, exposing about 5 mm of the bolt. Now screw the bolt into the ball joint. To tighten properly, first finger tighten the nut against the ball joint, hold the bolt using the Allen key, and tighten the nut clockwise. To loosen, repeat the process in the opposite manner. For the throttle pedal assembly, we need the parts displayed on the screen, the 20mm aluminum profile, and the bag containing the throttle pedal fasteners. From the washers and nuts bag, we need one ball joint, 3 steel washers, 2 plastic washers, 2 small plastic washers, 1 thin M6 nut, 1 M6 self-locking nut, 3 M6 T-slot nuts, and 2 M5 square nuts. We repeat the pivot assembly using the 22mm M6 bolts and the 15mm standoffs as we did for the brake pedal. Here we use the M6 T-slot nuts instead of the larger ones used previously. The bottom of the pedal arm should look like this. Next, we repeat the ball joint assembly using the M6 T-slot nuts and as before set it to exactly 126mm. Tighten the M6 nut on the ball joint securely in this position. Next, we assemble the main structure using the 16mm M6 bolts. The flange side of the brass bushing indicates the inner side of the side structure plates. Follow the assembly process using the 30mm round standoffs as shown. The round feature of this mounting bracket should face rearwards. Now carefully place the other side structure plate aligning the pivot and mounting bracket cutouts. Fasten the bolts on this side. Use a flat working surface to ensure that the bottom sides of the side structure plates are parallel. Now we can tighten the pivot on the other side. Next, we fasten the two remaining standoffs. The one on the rear determines the pedal travel. Setting it to the rear position gives us longer pedal travel. Set it to the front if you prefer a shorter throw. Mount the pedal face next. Here we use two plastic washers along with the spacer. The vertical position of the pedal face is adjustable along the entire length. Before proceeding to the next step, we advise to mount the pedals. Place this small standoff underneath the rear mounting bracket for support before fastening. If you use an M6 thread, we have provided an extra 22mm bolt. Now insert the bolt into the large plastic part like so. Slide on the large spring, followed by this insert. The protrusion of the insert sits in the spring. Next, screw in the self-locking M6 nut till about 10mm of the bolt is exposed. Now take the load cell, run the wires through it carefully. Do not pull or twist these wires with considerable force. Slide the load cell in the assembly like so, this time with the wire side up. Screw on the thin M6 nut and screw the bolt into the ball joint. Secure the ball joint using the method explained during the brake assembly. Now carefully align the spring with the insert in front and the recess at the back. Press against the spring and slide the plastic part into the assembly like so. The bottom recess of the plastic part should sit against the standoff, and the protrusion in the load cell should be aligned with this hole. Now move the pedal arm to check if the spring sits correctly. Install the electronics board using the M3 screws and the plastic spacers as shown. The electronics board has two spring terminals to connect the load cells, top for the brake and bottom for the throttle. The wire colors are indicated on the silk screen. To insert the wires correctly, bring the exposed part of the wire in the hole. When you feel a resistance on the wire, push on the orange lever like so, insert the wire a few millimeters, and release the lever. Give a slight tug to check if it's secure. If we insert the wire too much, the clamp presses against the insulation and we would have no electrical contact. If the pedals are mounted, we can also use a small tool to push the lever, which makes the process easier. We repeat for all 6 wires before connecting the board to the PC. The K-2 pedals are now assembled and can be configured to the user's preference. There are 4 possible configurations for the brake pedal. First is hard progressive. 1 red and 1 yellow elastomer with the yellow elastomer sitting inside the cup. This setting is rated for a maximum pedal force of 91 kilograms. Second is medium progressive. 2 yellow elastomers, again rated for a maximum pedal force of 91 kilograms. Third is medium linear, using 2 elastomers without the plastic cup. Use an extra plastic washer for this configuration. This setup is rated for a maximum of 65 kg on the brake pedal. Fourth is hard linear. 1 red and 1 yellow elastomer without the plastic cup. Like before, use an extra plastic washer for this configuration. This setup is rated for a maximum of 65 kg on the brake pedal. Be careful when using the last 2 configurations without the plastic cup. Overloading can lead to the failure of the yellow elastomers. The throttle pedal travel can be set for either long or short throw using this standoff. In the shorter throw position, we can adjust the preload by moving the self-locking nut. When set to longer throw, we advise against using preload on the spring. Leave the nut in the forwardmost position. If preload is added to the longer throw setting as seen here, the pedal arm barely rests on the travel limit standoff, and the spring will permanently deform over time. If there was anything unclear during the video guide, feel free to contact us. Thank you for choosing Najam Simtec.